If anyone would like a drink,
Are you going to do a
they're
throw ball?
chilled and they're ready to go. So, okay. Right. There's zero sugar, lemonades, and iced teas.
There's a whole treasure bank here. That's quite an entry, Chelsea. Yeah. Well, it's good to be here from the Super Bowl. I'll start a little bit about myself, and then we can get started. So, hello, I'm Suryansh. I am co-founder of EssentiallySports. I am traveling all the way from Amsterdam to the beautiful sunny weather here in Florida. And we have Chelsea, who's driving from Tampa, I believe. Nice. Let's start with the introductions. Go ahead.
So I am Chelsea. I'm originally from Hawaii. I worked at Rip Curl. I was in the surf industry for about 8 years, which was one of my passions growing up before switching into one of my other passions, which is eating and drinking. So I shifted into CPG, starting at Danone, which is the parent brand of brands like Dannon, Horizon Milk, Silk, So Delicious. And then I always knew I wanted to head into the startup space, and so I shifted to a children's supplement brand based out of Miami, and then Poppy, which is a prebiotic soda company. And then most recently Swoon, which you're all trying now, and probably were not familiar with before. We're still very new, although you can find us in Publix, Whole Foods, Fresh Market, and some Winn-Dixies here in Florida.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Suryansh. I am co-founder of EssentiallySports. We are a passion play turned into a top 10 sports media platform. The gap we are solving in sports culture is that between a fan's rant and an expert opinion with a fan's perspective take on journalism. How we differentiate ourselves is by providing depth in niches. We do that by highlighting important stories from NASCAR, golf, and tennis, something that is sometimes ignored but is still super relevant. Great. I'm really curious to know about your journey, Chelsea, to get to Swoon. What are the learnings that you took from marketing, from Poppy and Danone alike?
Yeah, so working at Danone, I definitely got a lot of that classical CPG training, which I think was super essential to my future roles in the startup space in terms of data analytics, consumer insights, product, place, price, all of that. But I think what I really took away from Poppy was how to build brand loyalists and be a digital-first brand that is constantly having those consumer connections and building a community. And that's something that I've really taken to Swoon is building brand loyalists by having those conversations in real time on social channels and in real life at events and things like that. And it's been invaluable having both of those experiences for sure.
Beautiful. And I know your previous startup is running a Super Bowl ad this year as well. So
yeah. Very exciting. Poppy, if you're not familiar with it, they launched on Shark Tank in 2020. And just 4 years later, they're running a Super Bowl ad. So, and from what I've heard from different articles, it was the most viewed Super Bowl ad. So kind of insane for one of those sort of disruptor or better for you brands amongst a sea of real incumbents like, the Oreos and the Doritos and the, big CPG. So it was really fun to see get there.
Wow. Creating one startup success story after another. Which brings me to the next part. So listening to the early morning talks, I first of all feel honored to be sitting in a room with brands which have been around 100 plus years. That was mind-blowing to hear. And here we are, two brands, Swoon and EssentiallySports, looking to do that for the next decade and century. So let's talk about the founding story. I know there's a lot of mission statement that got Swoon started, so I would love to hear the backstory.
Yeah, so Swoon was founded by Jen Ross, who was a type 1 diabetic and just didn't feel like there were good options when it came to zero sugar offerings on the market. And so her and her co-founder, Christina, launched Swoon, which was originally zero sugar simple syrups and cocktail mixers. And then we eventually transitioned to the ready-to-drink lemonades and teas that you find here. Our mission is to take sugar out of society. I mean, some statistics I've read recently are that 55% of adults are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. So, and drinks are the #1 source of added sugar in diet. So we're not necessarily, wanting people to stop eating sugar entirely, but, kind of supporting don't drink your sugar and save it for that cookie or that cake, which is a more enjoyable way to consume those grams of sugar, in my opinion. So that is our mission. We aim to take out 5 trillion grams of sugar in the next 5 years. And, it's a really exciting mission to get behind. We're a female-founded brand, and it has a majority female leadership. So actually, the 3 startups I've worked for in the past 6 years have all been female-founded brands, which has been great to experience.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. I'm curious to know, how does that play into the culture of the company as well? Like at Essentially Sports, for example, we all started as writers. I, in fact, used to write women's sports. That was my first article 10 years ago. And that still defines the culture. Anybody who joins the company in marketing, legal, as well, still writes. So I'm curious, do people drink the drink at the company? How does sugar-free feel like? And the whole mission statement, how does that translate into the working dynamics?
Yeah, I think the fact that we're a female-founded brand, and I think everyone who works at the company is really passionate about better-for-you offerings. So that incorporates itself into how we have team gatherings, what we eat at the office, and and then everything else, even from a marketing execution standpoint, who we partner with, the messaging that we portray on social channels, our influencers, and really everything else, including Barbie, which is one of the partners that we'll be talking about today. It was one of the main reasons they chose us as their beverage partner, is because we were a female-founded brand and had that kind of better-for-you mission as part of the brand.
Nice. Well, talking about Barbie, let's get into that, actually. So what's the story there? That was a wonderful campaign.
Yeah, so 3 years ago, which was one of the reasons I came over to Swoon, was because they had a partnership in the works with Emma Chamberlain, who was a top 25 Time magazine most influential people of the year. And so we did a partnership with Emma Chamberlain and her coffee brand, Chamberlain Coffee. And after that, we were like, we need another amazing partnership. It just worked so well for us to bring awareness and engagement to the brand. So we did a marketing brainstorm, and we were like, okay, everybody bring their top brands, their top celebrities, their top movies that are coming up, and let's think about this. And we're like, we want to partner with Taylor Swift or Beyonce or Rihanna. And then Barbie came up, and we're like, oh, Barbie's having a live-action movie next year. What do we think about that? And across the board, everybody was super excited about partnering with Barbie, but we're like, okay, how are we going to get Barbie? They're a huge brand, and we are completely unknown. So we started developing the label. The brand colors match perfectly. We created a branded fridge, like a Barbie x Swoon branded fridge. We got product actually made. We wrapped the cans, and we shipped a fridge to the Mattel offices to get them really excited about it. We did have a contact. We didn't cold ship a fridge to their offices just out of the blue. But we wanted to really create that moment for them that would get them excited. Timing was also a big part of it. We had just heard some news that Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie were going to be in a Barbie film next year. And so this was a full year before the movie came out. We started those conversations. And so luckily, no one else had really caught wind of it yet. And they decided to partner with us. We were actually, I think, according to them, one of the very first brands that that achieved a licensing deal with them leading up to the film.
Oh, well, talk about getting in early, right?
Yeah.
So how did that translate into results? Like, what were the follow-ups? What did you see in customer feedbacks? How did you measure it? Curious to know about that.
Yeah, the Barbie partnership was really transformational for us. It really put us on the map. People actually started to recognize who we are as a result of that partnership. So that SKU alone became over 50% of our sales revenue. And we saw 19x year-over-year growth on the Barbie Swoon Pink Lemonade, which was our product. And, in addition to that, so there was a lot of awareness that was driven from that. We have pretty small marketing budgets, especially when you think about us compared to a Hertz or a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi. So we received $2 million in earned media value. We received over 150 press hits. And then from an engagement standpoint, we had nearly 1 million engagements with the brand, hundreds of UGC. People were really excited about it, creating cocktails and mocktails and dressing up and bringing the drink to their, pre-parties and everything else. So from an awareness standpoint, an engagement standpoint, and then most importantly, a sales standpoint, it was a definite success for the brand.
Nice, nice. You talked about paid media. So I'm quite curious about your strategy. In general, in media, combining cultural movements in sports, entertainment, movie releases, and putting your brand storytelling with it, that works, right? You saw it with Barbie campaign.
Yeah.
What kind of campaigns do you have lined up? Are you thinking about something? What cultural movements are important for you as a brand right now?
Yeah, so something that we've really realized from staying close to our consumer feedback is that our core consumer is who we dub Kaylee. She's a 25-year-old female. She spends a lot of time on social media. She goes to concerts. And so we're always thinking about our branding through the Kaylee lens and how we can reach her in real time and working with influencers that really resonate with Kaylee. And so one thing we found is that she likes to share her drinks with her friends, and she kind of thinks of us as her bestie in a way. So we're kind of leaning in to this Kaylee moment with a bestie campaign that's going to be coming up, where we're going to work with podcasters who are besties. We're going to work with influencers who are besties, and kind of with the tagline of, we're the drink that loves you back. Sugar's not your friend, also tying into the fact that sugar's not your friend. Swoon is can be that best friend to bring you daily moments of delight. And it also ties in because our founders are best friends. So there's a lot of different touch points for this bestie campaign that we're going to be leaning into heading into this year. So
nice. Kaylee movement, that has quite a ring to it. I'm curious, how do you split between marketing campaigns to channelize this Kaylee movement? Let's say special edition collabs like you did with Barbie, influencer marketing and podcasts you mentioned, or conventional things like Google ads, Amazon ads, paid media, YouTube reviews. How do you split, and which one is your current channel and future channel?
Yeah, I would say it's fairly evenly split between a focus on retail marketing, a focus on digital ads and advertising, including Google, and a focus on influencers and influencer events. So influencers, I think, are a bit of a challenge because you're not going to see that immediate ROI from an influencer. You're not going to see sales that day, but you kind of have to have faith that you're building a community of brand loyalists through your work with influencers. We have a very robust influencer program that includes everything from the super micro influencers to celebrity influencers at the level of Emma Chamberlain and things like that. But the micro influencers have been really interesting to us because even though they have a smaller audience, they tend to, it's sort of like word of mouth on with a microphone. And also, the micro influencers that we work with when they're very small, and we don't have to pay them because we've shown them that love and support when they were smaller influencers. As they grow, they'll continue to post about us. And so like an interesting statistic was last year, one of the micro influencers that we didn't pay, we just sent them product. They were very small. They had less than 10,000 followers. But because we were working with them when they were smaller, they posted about us all year long and then grew to having about 100,000 followers. And so we had the highest earned media value from this unpaid influencer, more so than any of our bigger contract deals, which can, range in the $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 range for them to do a post. But it's really the micro influencers oftentimes can drive a lot of the buzz for you.
Nice. And do you balance that with, let's say, Amazon ads or something? Because I know you use Amazon for your distribution as well.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon ads are definitely a big portion of the business. Amazon sales in general are big for us. It's about 25% of our sales. As a startup, it's really hard to get those big retail channels and also open them nationwide. So, we'll get a Target, but we'll get 300 stores instead of, the full line. Similarly with Whole Foods, they'll open us in a region versus nationwide. So it's easiest for us to capture audiences online. So Amazon has been a real huge channel for us, albeit challenging because Cans are heavy to ship. They get damaged in transit, and just very costly for the brand to be shipping cases of liquid all over the United States, for sure.
Nice. Do you have any plans of expansion right now?
Yeah, we have some exciting retail expansion coming up. We're getting Kroger next month, and so we'll be in almost every Kroger chain coming up. And we recently got Whole Foods nationwide expansion versus just some of the regions. So we're super excited about some of the retail chains that we have opening for us this year.
Nice. There were a lot of questions about measurements in the first half of the day. So I'm quite curious, how do you measure different channels? Do you use any particular software? What are the technology systems inside your company to measure?
Yeah, so with startups, I think data is always light because there's always sort of that argument of how much do you want to spend analyzing the data versus how much of your marketing dollars do you want to spend reaching people and driving awareness. So the one that I have invested in is an influencer software, which measures earned media value for influencers. It's called Tribe. And that one I found invaluable for, if you're going to have an influencer program as part of your marketing strategy, measuring the engagement and the earned media value and being able to track how often these influencers are posting about you organically in addition to in a paid capacity. But otherwise, I think it's kind of the same metrics that you'll see on every digital channel when we look at the data analytics from Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and things like that.
Talking about communities, so something at Essentially Sports we have seen work well is we have micro communities across different sports, different players on Facebook, Instagrams, and these are just fans talking about trusting each other, sharing reviews, sharing storylines, etc., right? So I'm curious about your strategy on communities, particularly to fans, not influencers.
Yeah, definitely community connections is super important. We have a very small team on the marketing team, but a community manager was something that I hired on fairly soon just to have those one-on-one conversations with the community. And so I think at one point I tried to have an agency have those one-on-one conversations, but it just felt a little impersonal and, not in the right tone of voice, and we weren't really connecting with them. So having someone in-house that could not only relay any feedback in real time and escalate it when it came to, product quality or things that, our consumers were excited about, but it also helps inform any decisions. I think one competitive advantage of a startup, there are not a whole lot of them, is the ability to move quickly. So when we get consumer feedback that, they're not liking something about a product or they want to see more of something, we can react pretty quickly. So we recently, actually just a couple months ago, we had some in-office focus groups where we brought our community into the office and we asked them, what they liked and didn't like about our packaging and what they liked and didn't like about our product formula. And as a result, in the next month, I wish I had this product to bring to you all, but we have new packaging and we have new formulas that, 98% of people who tried it love the new formulas significantly better than our current formulas. So that's just something that we were able to achieve from listening to our customers and being able to act quickly.
Nice. Any anecdotal stories to share from one of the customers?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, there were so many good conversations around the product, but gosh, I am completely drawing a blank. Can we come back to this once something comes to me?
No, I was actually checking some YouTube reviews of. I would see like moms share with their daughter your Barbie drink and talking about how the cover is not loud at all and talking about the packaging. So when you mentioned packaging, it reminded me of that testimonial. How it was not loud. Pink has an association. And how cocktail drinks. I'm a big fan of Moscow Mule. And I know it's a big mixer in Moscow Mule as well. So I would see those drink
Yes,
campaigns.
our drinks pair very well with tequila and vodka. Pro tip.
Let's talk about brand positioning. So how do you see the brand positioning, how it has transitioned from last year to this year and next year?
Yeah, definitely. So we've pivoted quite a bit. We started as a zero sugar simple syrup and cocktail mixers. And so the majority of our consumers were Gen X, sort of 45 to 60, diet by need, diabetic or pre-diabetic. Then we wanted to be a bit more mass appeal, increase those usage occasions of the product. So as we were launching a ready-to-drink line, we were also working on that limited time offering with Emma Chamberlain. She's a Gen Z influencer, so we kind of needed to reposition ourselves for the Gen Z female versus the more Gen X male and female consumer. So pivoted slightly little by little in terms of our photography style, our tone of voice, the conversations we were having. And then when we launched the new product with Emma Chamberlain, it really just kind of sealed the deal. We had a photo shoot and video assets with this huge influencer. She has 30 million followers across all of her channels. So it just brought a ton of awareness to the brand. We had an in-person, a 2-day event in Venice where we invited consumers to come out and experience, the Emma x Swoon world, and invited Emma to meet fans. And so they went crazy. There was a line around the block of consumers trying to, meet Emma, their idol in real life. And that really brought consumers into the brand. Through that positioning. And so we really shifted, like when you looked at our consumer, pre-Emma Chamberlain partnership, it was completely different than the consumer that we have now. And, Barbie similarly just brought more of those Gen Z and millennial females into the brand. At first I was kind of thinking, well, Barbie, should we partner with them? They're a kids brand. We're not marketing ourselves to kids. Does this make any sense? But, Barbie has 99% global brand awareness, which is about as good as it gets. So, Barbie has consumers and fans of all ages. And I think that the movie really brought in, again, that 20-something, 30-something year old audience to both Barbie and to Swoon.
Nice. So how do you see this translate in 2024 and 2025 in terms of market positioning? Do you strengthen it? What are the goals?
Yeah, so we're continuing to try to build on that Kaylee audience. Again, we're still small and we want to be more mass, and we don't want to position ourselves as just the brand for 20 to 30-year-old females, but sticking to those conversations with that core audience. We've been working with influencers like Bravo stars, the Real Housewives, of various regions, and Summer House and things like that. It's really resonating with our audience to be working with those reality stars. So we're continuing to lean in there, and then eventually we'll be building out and hopefully being more of that traditional beverage brand that's going to be sponsoring athletic teams and kind of being everywhere and ubiquitous. But we're pretty small and mighty team right now, so we're going to continue leaning in on Kaylee for the near future.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people are going to love Kaylee. Before we jump into Q&As, I had one last question about the charitable tie-in you did with Dream Gap Project. Yeah. Any insights to share from that and the thought process?
Yeah, I mean, when we decided to partner with Barbie, we wanted there to make sure that there were shared values and a shared story. And so, aside from us being a female-founded brand and them, really promoting female empowerment, we knew that we wanted to have a charitable aspect to it. So we partnered with the Dream Gap Project, which is something that Barbie and Mattel support to bring more resources to girls, to give them more opportunities. And so 10% of net sales went to the Dream Gap Project. And yeah, it was just, we're always trying to look for ways to give back. Our personal nonprofit that we support on a regular basis is called Welfare. It's a nonprofit that makes better for you options more accessible to low-income communities.
Oh, that's so heartful to hear, Chelsea, especially to do that as a startup. That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. That's all I had. Any questions?
Hi, I'm Lauren Lester, and I head up external communications here at Hertz, working really closely with the marketing team. I'm curious to know, you talked a lot about earned media in respect to influencers, but I would love to learn just a little bit more about how you've leveraged traditional media, reporters, things like that, to help bring awareness for the brand.
Yeah. We haven't actually used a lot of traditional media to date. A lot of the more traditional media outlets have been a bit more expensive and out of range for us. So we've really been leaning on those, partnerships to help drive awareness. This year we are starting to do out of home, which I think is really important for beverage brands to grow some general mass awareness in our core markets. So out of home is definitely in the plan for this year, podcasts as well. But otherwise, the past couple of years have really been focused on social media ads, influencer partnerships, and building the community.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Akers. I'm on the brand management team, and one of the key programs I market is our rideshare program, specifically Uber. And while it falls under the Hertz brand, it's a very, very specific target market. My question is, how do you adjust big brand mindset and campaign management to essentially to a startup, because it's completely different?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think, I shifted from a very big brand to a very small brand, and there hasn't been, I guess, a whole lot of overlap until working with Mattel. And so then it was kind of like, we're this small, scrappy brand that is used to doing everything really kind of last minute because we have a very small team. And now we're suddenly working with Mattel, and they're like, everything needs to go through legal, and you need 2 weeks of advance notice for one round of replies. And it was definitely a shift for mostly on our end, because we needed to put a lot of processes into place that just didn't exist in order to kind of function and hit deadlines when working with a bigger brand. But I think, I don't know if that answered the question, but I think there was definitely a way to bridge the gap, and it was more on our end from the small brand side to try to meet the bigger brand where they needed us to be in terms of timelines and processes and things like that. But it was a fun challenge for sure.
Hi there, I'm Gabby from Factory 360. We work with a plant-based milk company, plant-based milk company, and they get a lot of pushback from the milk industry. And I know there's a lot of talk, and I know on Super Bowl ad they also talk to this, but sugar industry, but we know the players there from a CPG perspective. Are you guys seeing that in the space as well? What are you seeing in the future? Because even the client we have at times, they're getting threatened at sometimes, so can you speak to that?
Yeah, actually, no, that's interesting, because I worked for both a dairy brand when I was working for Horizon Milk, and then I was working for Silk, which was a non-dairy brand, and I have heard some of the buzz in terms of, plant-based milk isn't milk, and maybe plant-based milks can't call themselves milks and things like that. We haven't seen any pushback from the sugar industry as a whole. However, we're definitely always keeping a pulse on the articles that are coming out. There was recently an article that came out that was specifically erythritol and another, zero sugar sweetener were potentially linked to cancer. And so there was a lot of buzz around that. Luckily, we don't have erythritol, if I'm saying that correctly, erythritol in our products. But, trying to find ways to actually to sometimes either capitalize on that conversation, or better educate people if it's not in our favor, whatever the cultural conversation around an ingredient is at that time.
You have a question here?
Hey, it's so awesome to see such an empowering brand, especially, in the female space. This is the age of alternative drinks, and I feel like it's become so popular. Is there any emerging technology or ingredients that you can speak that might impact the price point of the drink? Because at this point, I think you have it for $30 and then it'd be around $2. So is that something that you think in the future you might drive, or is there a specific group of individuals you'd like to target?
Okay. I guess in terms of the ingredient question, ingredients that might make the product more affordable. Yeah. So we're actually transitioning right now to printed cans. Currently, our cans are wrapped with a label, and the transitioning to printed cans makes the product a little bit less expensive. So we're actually able to, we're going to be able to pull back our price just slightly this year because of the printed can option. So, obviously in a world where every consumable seems to be going up really quickly, especially when you go to the grocery store. We're really excited that we're going to be able to, drop our price just slightly and increase the amount of promotions and depth of promotions that we're able to do with that product. That being said, in terms of ingredients, haven't found too many options that will make the product less expensive. We are a non-GMO product, so we're constantly, we want to have a certain standard of ingredient that we put in the product. And we also have, organic teas. So it's sort of a mix between organic and non-GMO ingredients. So yeah, always looking for ways to, but it's true. I mean, especially when you get into the functional beverages, the prebiotics and the probiotic drink market, I mean, spending $250 to $350 a drink really adds up, especially if you're like me who wants to drink 5 or 10 flavored beverages a day. But I haven't, unfortunately, heard of any kind of new technology that's going to bring the prices down on that across the board.
Hello. Okay. The great presentation. This was really cool and really interesting. I work a lot with our influencer marketing program here at Hertz. So my question is, what is some advice that you would have for brands that are building their influencer marketing program as it's becoming more and more popular as far as like social media marketing and getting brand messages out and building that community of loyalty?
Yeah, I think so. That's aside from the community manager, I think the influencer manager on our team is the other most important role, because I feel like working with influencers is so nuanced and working contracts is so time intensive. The rates on influencers has been rising so rapidly that it's kind of insane, especially as a small brand, to figure out how to balance that. So I think having an influencer lead on the team, especially because you need to also be a part of the conversation, because an influencer who one day is very cool and influential might suddenly fall out of favor and maybe not be the right representative for your brand. And if you're not paying attention, which I'm not always, like sometimes I'll recommend different Real Housewives or things like that, and they're like, no, they just did something so controversial, we can't work with them. And so I'm like, oh, I didn't know. So I think having someone on the team that is like really on the pulse of what influencers are doing and what the cultural conversation is around the influencers is super important. And then also having a really thought out influencer program that both includes the micro influencers that you can bring into the brand when they're small, who will continue to be posting about you even when they get bigger, but also having those celebrity influencers who influence the other influencers. So when we were very small, we could barely get influencers to post about us even when we were paying above market rates, because we're so small and nobody cares about us or wants to post about us. But once we start bringing in reality stars and bigger celebrities like Emma Chamberlain that are influencing the other influencers, suddenly those influencers, it's cooler for them to post about us. So I think that's why I think an influencer manager is super, super essential as an in-house resource. Yeah.
Hi there. Can you hear me? Perfect. Keely Davis from Team Snap. I think I can say for all the women here, we love your female empowerment aspect, right? And of course for the men here that support their wives and their daughters, right? And the moms, right? So last week was National Girls and Women in Sports Week. You mentioned sponsoring sports teams potentially, eventually down the line, right? Interesting fact is when we look at this next generation of developing girls, girls are dropping out of sports at 2 times the rate of boys by the time that they reach age 14. Sports, those of you that have played, I can tell you I played ice hockey, wouldn't have guessed it growing up, played on a boys team. It's made me who I am today, right? 98% of C-suite level women contribute their success to having played competitive sports, right? So when we look at this next generation and this rate at which they're dropping out at alarming rates, and the benefit of sport and lives of this next generation of girls, right? Learning how to building confidence, how to be a team player, how to win, how to lose, right? Those are skills that set them up for success into their adulthood. And so again, you mentioned sponsoring sports teams potentially down the line. Have you considered, the sports space as far as, improving the lives of this next generation of developing girls and women? Just curious to know if that's been something that's been considered.
Yeah, I came from the sports space, and I grew up competing in surfing, and so it's very important to me too. And it's been really, I don't know if anyone here follows surfing, but there's been massive changes in the surf industry over the past few years, and a lot of females, kind of retiring early and dropping out of even the professional space. And I think it's a very important, and I think I actually did not watch the Super Bowl, shockingly. I looked up all the ads the next day, but I think someone mentioned that there was a Dove ad that possibly kind of referenced that statistic that you're mentioning. And I think, I guess, what is the main driver of the girls dropping out at alarming rates?
Thank you. One of them, which is particularly important, is you talk about sugar. So body image is one of the really important ones as well, right? It's not feminine to participate in certain types of sports. There are geo-economical issues. The experiences aren't that great. The coaching isn't that great. I think to Keely's question, one of the things that's really interesting is your founder had type 1 diabetes, or has type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is on the rise. A lot of that is actual behaviors and choices that are made as you sort of grow up, right? So, like, I think of, was it Kelsey? Kaylee.
Kaylee,
yeah. I think of Kaylee, and, like, Kaylee has made certain decisions, but maybe there's a backstory to Kaylee in terms of, like, how she arrived to where she's gotten, and ultimately how you can help sort of inspire that next generation to think about soda occasions differently and not about sugar as it relates to that.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important for a brand like Swoon to be involved in the sports space. You think of like the Coca-Colas and the Pepsis and the Sprites that are, the main option at a lot of these stadiums, or even doing big partnerships with sports athletes that most likely probably aren't actually drinking that very often. And so, I think as we grow, it's super important for us to be, align ourselves with the different, athletes, and also be available at the stadiums and at the sporting events. We are available actually at the Dolphin Stadium. It's one of the, so there are some zero sugar options there from Swoon, but hopefully one day we'll be available at all of the sports stadiums, and we'll be able to sponsor athletic teams. I'm hoping that that's in the next couple of years. We'll get to that point where it really makes sense for us, because I think, to your point, so everyone's starting to kind of understand that the soda options are not the best for health, and so we really want to bring those better for you options to the mainstream, and being part of the sports landscape is definitely going to be a part of that.
I would like to chime in just a minute on this. I think, Chelsea, what you're doing with Swoon in changing that, and in general, I do think the market is changing as well. Like, listening at Super Bowl, Sue Bird was there, and she was mentioning about how they are investing in different sports, women's sports sponsorships growing, and how they're seeing a trend of the ROI is better in women's sports compared to men's sports, because women make purchasing decisions most of the time as well. And this we see in our data as well. 35% of our traffic is women's sports. So I do think it is changing, and initiatives like founder runs by women will change that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.